with that. But I think he's going to be good. And I certainly wouldn't want to put secondary tariffs on Russia, but if they were put on, it would not be very good for them.
President Trump there speaking to reporters about Russian President Vladimir Putin and his threat of secondary tariffs on buyers of Russian oil. For more, let's bring Bloomberg senior editor Derek Wallbank. And Derek, it's been a remarkable sort of couple of conversations that we've heard from President Trump, namely in that NBC interview where I think we've had sort of some of the most fiery language yet that we've heard from the president against Russia.
Yeah, I think that's right, Heidi. And look, Donald Trump has been very clear that he wants a deal made between Ukraine and Russia, and he wants a deal for peace, and he wants the fighting to stop now. Now, he's taken a certain amount of flack, particularly from the left, particularly from Europe, particularly from some voices in Ukraine, about how close he has come to Russia in pursuit of this goal. But make no mistake, there is a line there somewhere at which point Russia has to stop a lot of what it was doing, or what has been doing somewhat relentlessly. Now, if you take some of those arguments from those sides and extend them through, what happens in a certain amount of time, only Donald Trump knows how much time, but in a certain amount of time, if Russia doesn't actually go forward. And that's one of the things that Trump is starting to lay down a marker on, to suggest that he won't be able to continue unceasingly with allowing Russia to sort of go on and continue without actually coming to a point that it stops aggressions. At the same point, he also mentioned a little bit later in that conversation with reporters aboard Air Force One that he needs to make sure that Zelensky isn't coming out of the mineral resources deal that Trump very much wants to get on there. Had some harsh statements there too if Zelensky were to pull out of that. So it's very much a fluid situation. Trump is saying something like, "I'd like to not have to put more sanctions on Russia," but he's very much trying to make clear that he is willing to do so if he doesn't think that Russia, at some point in the future, if he comes to the belief that Russia is not playing straight on.
It's interesting he talked about oil sanctions, because this idea of also secondary sanctions related to Venezuela that we heard last week, is this sort of a new popular, economic statecraft tactic or strategy that we're starting to see emerge?
Yeah, this is a tactic that I think everyone needs to sort of wake up to and understand how it works. The idea of secondary sanctions, as the Trump administration has put them out, is to have a sort of tariff-like response that kind of works like sanctions. You could have a tariff response that basically says, we're going to put this amount on top of anything else that exists as a sort of penalty for not doing whatever else may be there, right? So it's additional to anything else that may. Trump is talking about, he's talked about it with Venezuela. He's talking about it in some other contexts as well. This is a tactic that people do need to be aware of and do need to be pricing in terms of the threats. It's not a replacement, but it is additive. And I think that additive is something that bears particular mention.